show where I try to educate real stories.
Thank you for watching Truth and Justice with Vivian King. It is a pleasure to greet you the first January 6th, the first Wednesday of 2016. Thank you for watching. Tonight, we're going to talk about hot topics in the news. There are a few very hot topics that we want to debate and talk about and get your opinions about. So please call in to our number and call us and let us know. So, and you know you can always watch us at on the internet by going to www.houstonmediasourcetv.org and clicking on the link to watch the TV online. Thank you for watching. We're going to talk about Oregon. That's hot tonight. Oregon, where the white men have taken over the wildlife refuge and the federal building. We want to kind of compare that to what's happened to a lot of the armed and unarmed black men who've been shot down immediately upon a weapon being drawn, and kind of look at that. Since now, January 2016, Texas has open carry laws in many facilities. So how will that affect the way police look at a black armed man and a white armed man or a Hispanic armed man? And we'll keep praying for the day that we can all be looked at the same. I know it's difficult, but we want that. We just want to be treated fairly and equally. I'm not biased for black men, but I'm sympathetic because I get a lot of calls from the mothers of black men, so that makes it a hot topic in the news. We also want to talk about Bill Cosby. That's interesting. After all of what's gone on, he's now been charged, and a lot of women feel one way and men feel another way. So let's talk about that at halftime. So let's just deal with it. So we know that there is a backstory to the Oregon guys, but there's a backstory to everybody. That's not what we want to deal with. We want to deal with what the police know. They know that these armed men have taken over a federal building, and they've also taken over a wildlife refuge. What does that do for other citizens? They don't have the right to go in there. They don't feel comfortable. Interesting topic. In the studio tonight, I have a Generation XY, Cookie Moncriffe. We can't figure out what generation she is, but she's looking beautiful, and she's here to talk about their point of view. And then we have Danny Sneed, returning citizen.
I like that.
Did 15 years in prison.
I'll own that. I'll own that.
Own it, baby, own it. 26 years on parole, but off. My legal assistant, and I'm proud of him. We did a lot of good work in 2015. Thank you, Danny. A lot of people are happy. Got a good letter from Chris Watson the other day.
Wow, that's awesome.
So anyway,
Amazing.
he's out in Huntsville. Got a good letter.
Great.
So anyway, but let's talk about it. So I'm kind of conflicted about this. I mean, I'm very conflicted. I'm fixing to get to you, Cookie. Mm-hmm. I'm conflicted because, you know, I listen to black radio in the mornings just to know what's going on in black America. I know what's going on in all of America because I watch national news every night. Right. And so this morning, talk show, people were kind of saying, can people really see now why we have to say Black Lives Matter too? Because there's no way in hell that black men could have gotten heavily armed and gone into a federal wildlife refuge and a federal building and just taken over, and they get to have an interview. They get to call in the media and have an interview. Interesting. They're not being called domestic terrorists. They're not being called terrorists. They're not, I mean, I'm not advocating at all that they should be shot because I don't think they should. What I'm saying is I don't think black men should be shot either. So I'm just asking for equal justice. But it's just interesting how the media looks at it whenever, like for them, people want to know the backstory. Not much is about any criminal records they have, or run-in with the law, or inappropriate behavior. Like when some of the babies like Tamir Rice or Michael Brown was shot, all you hear about is their bad records. You don't hear about the good things except on black radio and TV. So talk about that, Cookie, Generation XY. How are young people feeling about that from your polling and research today?
Well, it's exactly what you were saying, that it's messed up. Well, one thing just popped in my head, though. The thing is that the white militia did, because they were white militia did in Oregon, was they went to an actual federal place and they, I guess, stood there and said, hey, killed or be killed because this is what we're fighting for. And the messed up part about that is that these young black men that they're shooting and killing weren't doing anything. Right. You had Tamir, who had a toy gun, which was illegal to play in a playground. Right. That was it. Then you had this young boy named Kendrick McDade. He was the young football player, was doing absolutely nothing. And the police come and they shoot him because they thought they heard a shot and they thought that he had a gun and had nothing on him. I mean, the stories, they continue to go on. And then I think our generation is like you said with the Black Lives Matter, we just want to be able to live. You know, it's not so much we're doing anything, causing any trouble. We're in our own places, in Walmart. And one guy, he was in Walmart, had
looking
a gun.
at guns where they sell guns.
Where they sell guns.
And he gets shot.
And he gets shot. And it's like we're not even doing anything. You know,
so is the question, do black men have the right to bear arms too? Do black men have a Second Amendment right? Is that a more realistic question? Do black men and women? No, I'm just asking. Is that what we should ask the media, ask our government? Can black men have the Second Amendment right to bear arms just like the white men, or is it because you're black and you're suspicious and I'm scared of you, I get to shoot first? You don't have it. Because I'm starting to think that. I was in court today for a young man who was stopped for walking across the street from his house at a store where he had a right to be. Of course, the police wrote the report that he was running, right. And they had a report that a man was dressed in all black, and so they see this guy running, so they stop him, search him. He has marijuana on him, take him somewhere to be identified, and they say it's not him. And the white prosecutor was angry and said, oh, it's justified. If you're a black man and you have on black and it's been reported that they have on black, they can stop every black man they see. And I tried to appeal to him. Of course, he got mad at me, like I'm playing the race card, but I'm saying, really? I guess because I'm thinking my black kids' lives are just as important as his white life. Does he really think that all white kids in black, if somebody white robs somebody in black, is supposed to be stopped? I mean, we really think that in this society? And maybe stop them. Maybe frisk them for weapons, but do you get to turn in pockets and see if they have marijuana in there? I don't know. And my client said, look, I had just gotten off work. I had on a Pizza Hut t-shirt. It was dark gray, but the big Pizza Hut emblem was in the middle. And I got dropped off. I don't drive. I walked across the street to get a cigar and a something to drink. I'm grown. He's grown. He's about 30. And he said the cops didn't have sirens on. They stopped him when he's crossing the street to go back to his apartment and said, who are you? What you do? You got anything illegal? They just started harassing him. You look like somebody we're looking for. They don't have lights on. He said, in fact, the cops, they startled him. They said, we're about to put a flashlight in your face. Close your eyes, because it might blind you. And then they all started laughing. And he said it scared him. He thought they were about to knock him over the head or something. But he closed his eyes, put his head down, and they did the flashlight, and it scared him. He said, and he think when he did that, the other cop took a picture of him. And he just said it was some crazy stuff. I mean, just real crazy. That's crazy. I mean, they could have asked him for his ID. I don't know. But just the fact that prosecutors, a white male prosecutor, not a young one, thinks that it's okay to stop a black male because now it's more than just having on black. You got to have on. I mean, having on black is not going to describe who the person is. If that's all the description that the victim can give, did he have on a hat? Did he wear glasses? Did he have a mustache? Was he 6 feet? Was he 5'2"? So my inquiry now is, let's get the dispatch tape. Let's just get to really, you think this is justified? Let's see what the description was that was called in to see if it really matches.
Can I give you a real life story that happened to me?
Sure.
One night I was asleep, and this happened in my hometown. And I thought I heard something, so I looked outside, and it was dark. but it was a lot of car lights on my streets. And I thought it was like a funeral. And it was lights going back to like 10 or 15 cars. And I was like, I couldn't figure out what could be, how many, because it's a dead end street. So the next thing I know, and I'm not embellishing any of this, it was a knock at the door.
Your door?
At my door.
Oh my God.
And when I opened the door, I couldn't see faces. I just saw flashes of badges and all that. And they said, turn around. And they didn't hurt me, but they turned around and they put me in the back of a police car. They never talked. I'm saying, what happened? What are y'all doing?
Wow.
And they drove me to a convenience store.
Wow.
And they brought out the clerk, and they brought him to the car, and they were talking to him, conversing, and I know what was going on by then.
Right,
and he looked in there, and he said this. He shook his head.
Dang.
And this is what they did. They drove me back home, let me out the car, took out the handcuffs, didn't say anything, and I went back in the house and went to sleep.
Nobody ever said anything to you?
I'm sorry.
I'm not
sir.
I'm not embellishing this.
Did you ever go back to that store and see what happened?
But the only reason why what happened to me was not like out of line is based on my criminal history.
Well, they knew you and they knew where you lived. So if somebody got robbed, they thought you did it.
And in my hometown, when I was just recently there, I wouldn't go out to a party late at night because your past, they profile, and when something happens, they look at who has done this before, is your MO.
So you're at the top of the list, basically.
It's your mode of operating when you commit a crime. They match that in the database. So it just so happens that I had something on file that may have looked like that
You could be a
possibly.
It was
suspect.
something that you did right.
But thank God that the victim of the clerk was honest and didn't say it was you, because there are people who
It
are
was that close.
misidentified.
It was that close.
That close. If they said yes, it's over. You'd have been in jail for the rest of your life.
Well, I mean, it was just that simple.
Wait a minute. In jail for the rest of your life with relatives calling me. I've heard about
was
you,
just about
Miss
to say,
King.
can
Can
we
you get
call
him
you?
out?
He
Because he's
didn't do
in jail
nothing.
for something he didn't do.
Right.
Well, you do it for free because I don't have any money. And I want you to work and do it for free and get him out because you're the difference in him going there. And after the fact, and I'm talking about after the fact, they'd hired somebody else at first, but then
Right.
they'd come to me and say, fix this for me, fix this for us. And
fix it
herein lies the TV show. This is why I have it. For mothers who've called me about their sons doing long sentences for crimes they didn't do. And I tell them all, if I could just open up the jail and let him out, I would, but I can't.
Yeah.
And he went through the system, and I'm so sorry. And that's why you need to get involved in the system and understand. And young black boys need to understand, if you are out there committing robberies, you will be caught, and you will do a lot of time, and you will not get probation, okay? You're gonna do, because people are scared of you. I'm scared of anybody with a gun that comes after me. And everybody is. But what's even scarier is if you're misidentified.
I
A
didn't
lot
have
of
an
times when people
alibi.
are scared, when people, alibis don't work in court.
But I didn't have one.
Oh, you
Because they
didn't have
asked me,
one.
like, where you been? And I was there by myself.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, it was no one to collaborate the timeline because this had just happened.
But
And
isn't that interesting? You got to collaborate yours where these guys can just take over and everybody wants to know the backstory.
Right.
So, I mean, because this thing can get out of hand in just a minute. These guys are armed
But
and
it seemed like
dangerous.
it didn't get out of hand at all. That's the thing. It seemed like it just was the guys, they said they wanted this. Now we got a press conference. Now, we're talking to them. We know the backstory.
People
It's
probably
smooth
have already
sailing.
started them a GoFundMe in case they go to
Right.
jail. Let me ask you, Danny. Now, when I called you this morning and said, let's talk about this tonight, you tell me what your topic was about. How would you so quickly be charged with a terroristic threat? What were your words, just off the cuff thinking?
well, I don't have to be in Oregon. I don't have to do anything. I can just walk down the street, and if I threaten you, I've committed a crime, and I can be arrested just with words.
Words, no guns,
No gun.
just words.
If somebody called and said he threatened me,
You
The
going
clock-
to jail.
he can say, I believe that they're not lying, that you threatened them, turn around. They-
And when you get to court, the DAs are going to look at your past. That's all.
And that's all they
They're
need.
not gonna, that's all they're going to do. And before you know it, you can be in jail. And that's what's scary, because there's a balance between protecting victims and protecting people from being wrongfully accused. And there's a balance, and that's why we need level-headed prosecutors and law enforcement, to deal with that because there is a balance. Now, words, you have a First Amendment right to say whatever you want to say, but what you can't do is do anything that's imminent. At least that's what the law was before I looked at it. It gets rewritten and rethought about every year to make it worse on people. But in other words, I can say, Cookie, I'm gonna whoop your butt. I'm gonna shoot you, Cookie, but I don't have any gun. I mean, that's not a terroristic threat. Now, if I come at you, and you see a gun on me, but I don't use it, that's because it could be imminent, so it's the imminency of the words that criminalize them. Otherwise, you have a right to say what you want to say.
I have a question though. Back to his story, in that particular situation, was there anything he could have done or said or should have done or said when they came to his door, opened it up and
well,
said,
obviously, they're not supposed to come to your house unless they have a warrant.
Right, right.
So he actually, that is a civil rights violation.
All day long.
He has a federal 1983 claim at that time for a constitutional violation of the law. You cannot, the Constitution clearly says the same ones that law enforcement depends on and these militia depend on and the media depends on and all of us depend on, says that you cannot be arrested
and
or detained without a search warrant in your home.
So, for our audience out there, if the police come to your door unannounced, right? What should I say? Where's your warrant?
Well, what I would think you should say, especially you Generation X, Y, you got your phone in your hand. I'd start calling 911. I would call 911 and say, hey, it's 15 cars outside. They're scaring the hell out of me. I'm going to comply. But if I don't show up, or if I don't, if something happens to me, I've done nothing. I've been home all night. I don't know who they are. Can you send a sergeant or lieutenant or the police chief to my house? I've had some of my young clients, actually a young white client from Braeswood call me in the last 6 months and say, Miss King, they're outside my door. I'm like, baby, what have you done? You're a good kid. What are you talking about? I don't know, but I don't know. I said, well, call 911. Get off the phone with me and call 911 and report it. We can't stop. You can't beat the ride if they're going to bust your door in, if they have a warrant for you. And 5 hours later, because he was so scared, 5 hours later, because he has been in a little trouble before, 5 hours, but little trouble. 5 hours later, I called and check on him, and he says, oh, they wanted the people next door. So finally, but he did call 911. Yeah. I told him, call 911 and tell them to send a supervisor out. If they have a warrant, tell you over the phone, because you're not opening the door, let them kick the door in.
Yeah.
That's what I told him.
Okay.
But y'all have y'all's phones in your hand, so call 911 and report it. Say somebody's beating at my door. I'm scared. It might be the police. I don't know if they have a warrant, but I think because now they have no knock warrants, so they can just bust the door in. Oh yeah, it's not just warrants like the Constitution. It's no knock warrants. So if they can justify, and all they have to do is just write it down, and a judge will sign it and say that I think that we have to surprise him or whatever, they get to just bust the door in, and they don't pay for it either.
But for me, I didn't need to know the story about Tamir Rice dying within 2 seconds of an officer arriving on the scene. When they was on the scene, on my scene, I knew how that story.
If you made one bad move,
I know how the story. But see, the thing about it is, I was aware that I was alone, and no one would, whatever they said, because I've come from a criminal background and worked as a paralegal. And remember, the law is there to protect us, but when the law shows up, that's not what they're talking about.
Right.
The law is basically what they word on a piece of paper and how they report it. And that's what we don't understand.
And it's also the integrity that the constitutional writers expected. They expected integrity in law enforcement.
There
and a
you
lot
go.
of the
Good
punishments
point.
in law enforcement having to do with unlawful search and seizure, throw it out, no matter what it is, it was to protect, the judges were supposed to be the gatekeepers to make sure the police didn't get out of hand and violate people's rights. But the police, the judges have not done that in about the last 20, 25 years, afraid that if they do, they'll be on the news by the Chronicle or ABC, NBC, that they let a criminal go because the cops didn't violate their rules. And so the cops now don't have to, it doesn't matter. It's only a law if it's going to be enforced. If it's not going to be enforced, and the police officers know it's not. That's why they get to shoot kids. Even if they go to trial, what's going to happen? Not guilty.
Right.
They're going home. So that's why they do it. And then until Generation X, Y, as taxpayers keep making noise and say, we ain't going for this, we're not having this, we are going to vote. We're going to make sure we vote for the proper mayor so he can do a good police chief who has to make sure that people's constitutional rights are violated. It's a delicate balance. I don't want cops to get shot, but I do want them to try to assess a situation, you know, and a lot of these kids walking down the street like Michael Brown, that situation can be assessed. I mean, really? I mean, you walk right behind him and he's walking, so obviously he's a big fella, so he ain't going too far. You can follow him home. You can write down, you can take a picture of him with your phone. I mean, you can follow him home and have his address in case you need to investigate further later. You know what I mean?
That's what a lot of people are talking about when it comes to
you don't have
the
to act
past
that
cases.
fast.
You didn't have to act that fast. And this whole militia that we have going on, they had a whole time to sit back and watch the local police. They stood down. No one bum rushed them. No shots were made. They had plenty of time to assess who these people are, what they wanted, and what was going on. Versus these kids doing nothing.
Doing nothing.
Nothing.
And then the conservatives or the people who hate us are then saying, well, he's bad. He got in trouble one time. So that's like justifying for shooting. You know, never putting themselves in the position of the parents that have to bury these children that let them walk to a store. I mean, Houston, America, don't we have more integrity than that? Don't we care about our fellow man? Don't we want everybody to be treated fairly? What would happen, our white friends, if you really ask law enforcement to treat our kids fairly? I mean, we're gonna lose any? I mean, y'all gonna lose anything? I mean, I can stand if the power is money, but this ain't about money. This is just about lives.
Can I make this argument? We just passed an open carry law, right?
Oh.
So.
I'm sick about it.
But there's a fight to protect the Second Amendment. But the state that Tamir was shot in was a right to carry state.
An open carry state.
Right. So on one point, you're saying people should be able to have guns.
And he looked like an adult.
So instead of protecting his Second Amendment rights, he can have a gun.
Right.
You showed up and said, we can have guns, but if we see you guys with a black wallet or anything.
A black gun. And thing is that Tamir Rice, from the video, there's not nobody even around him. So it's not like he's threatening anybody.
Like
he's not chasing. When we were kids and played cops and robbers, we chased people with our little toy guns, our little cap guns. We would be chasing our friends. I mean, he ain't even chasing nobody that I saw on the video. I saw it just like he was just playing with it. Right. It didn't look like it was anybody threatened or around them. So they could have easily stood back and assessed the situation.
But this is what the argument they're making to not go in against these militia. They're saying there's no threat there. They're not at a school. They're just in a building. So right now we're just going to assess the situation, just like the argument you made about Tamir. Well, if you get there and he's alone, there's no threat around him, and he has a gun. Let's step back and assess the situation before we kill him. But it's hypocrisy in this country when you look at the two, and we're just asking people, hey, look at it and let's make a fair and moderate America.
Right.
Our GOP friends, the right wing, if you want to push the Second Amendment and NRA people, well, people that have guns or don't have guns, why are they being killed?
Right, and why can't you just be fair about it? Why do you have to write nonsensical narratives? I mean, you've dummied down our country so much by having these double standards and saying stuff that makes no sense, but the GOP, they put the news flash out and everybody says the same thing, and so silly people have these coffee room conversations that make no sense. When I have my friends that tell me stuff that makes sense because they've been hearing it on radio and TV, and we talk about it and assess it, all they can say is, oh, I never thought about that. But it doesn't make any damn sense.
Right.
Ted Cruz says, we want to call for a peaceful resolution in this Oregon deal.
Talking about what Ted says.
But when it was in Ferguson, they brought in tanks to deal with unarmed protesters and this huge police force to deal with peaceful protesters. But here's armed, and I don't know, they're terrorists. And
they've already said, what have they said over and over? If y'all come with it, y'all gonna get it back.
But why are we even using the word here in this conversation, militia? Because they're terrorists.
And let me just say this. It's the media. The media is on their side, and they're framing it constitutionally. Let me give you a legal opinion. What does our Second Amendment say? Google it, the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution. It uses the word militia. So that makes it seem like it's okay.
Less threatening.
Right. And talk about what some of those articles say.
I just feel like
Cookie, what does it say? To read up what some of the newsreels are saying.
This one says, Do you know what our government calls groups of heavily armed Black or Latino men? Gangs. Do you know what our government calls heavily armed Muslims? Terrorists. I honestly feel like there's a war on Black America.
Right. It's
and that
scary.
is something that hasn't changed. And I don't know how long it will be until it changes. I just feel like we're in a country that doesn't want us here and never did. And then now we're here, and
But how
there's
do you
nothing that
fix
they
it?
can do about it. That's the question. Well, what do we do to fix it?
You have to be a part of a system that you pay for. You will be heavily taxed your whole life. Taxpayers pay for the police, for law enforcement, for the Army. And what I need your generation to do is own that they work for you. You got to own it. However you own that, y'all decide how. Don't feel victimized by it. Be empowered by it. Let people know that you own it. Get a block of young people to all vote together and say, go to some of these town hall meetings and say, what will you do for us, the taxpayers? You have to pay. When those guys retire at 50 years old, guess who's going to be humping like hell to try to pay the taxes and the county revenue that's going to pay all these people that's going to retire, all these policemen. Y'all are going to be paying for it. We're paying for it now. Yeah. So if you pay for something, don't you want satisfaction? Don't you want fairness?
But I mean, that's the thing, y'all. Like you said, we're all paying for it, and we're still having our kids killed. It's
right.
like it's like, where does it?
Well, I'm hoping that you guys are more aggressive than our generation. Our generation is still mealy-mouthed and scared. They're scared if they say something, something's going to happen. I mean,
the thing is, though, these kids weren't doing anything and they got shot. So, I mean, maybe us as the young people or older people, all us can get together as Black people and go to the White House. Maybe they'll say something. Maybe they'll the same thing. And we can have a bunch of guns and AKs.
We better be ready to get shot.
I know. But that's the thing.
I mean, we got to get ready to get shot if we go with
But that's the thing. This young white, whatever we want to call them, militia terrorist group, they said they're ready to be killed.
But why aren't they using the word terrorist? I mean, you're a domestic terrorist. If you take over and I no longer can enjoy the freedom to go to a federal wildlife refuge that I'm funding with my tax dollars, then I feel threatened, and I think the police should remove them. Mm-hmm. And one interesting article said that, like, before ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Division of the federal government would handle it, but some GOP said we don't have an ATF leader because Obama appointed one, but then, of course, the Republicans won't approve him. So we don't even have a leader of our ATF. Now, what type of government is that? I mean, you know, we want to deal with the part of the government you want, the Second Amendment, right to bear arms, to be our own militia. And so they get to use the word militia. Call Black men militia. You don't call them that if they have a gun. And I'm talking about the unarmed ones doing nothing. What about Eric Gardner? Somebody, you know, maybe selling cigarettes that the cops didn't even see in their view, and you're going to take it, you're going to lay on him till he doesn't breathe anymore.
Or the guy walking away, you shoot 16 times.
In the back and cover it up. That's the guy in Chicago.
And it takes a year to find out. But this is what I don't understand, America. When do we have a week where there's not a report of an unarmed Black person being killed in this country? This 55-year-old mother was killed.
For trying to open the door.
Opening the door.
They shoot through doors.
And then the thing about it is, your coworker is already on a hot seat, charged with murder and the rest of the police not saying like we're gonna change our behavior. I don't want that to happen to me. Nobody's fearing any repercussions. So when they show up, I think they give bounties or something. Like they have like a lotto. That if you kill someone Black, you get some type of great reward or something. I don't know how to justify the incentive.
To me, Black lives have never mattered in America. And now it's really up to us to be like, okay, our lives matter. It matters to us. So we're going to do what we have to do to maintain our lives, to keep our community strong and uplifted. Instead of going to everyone else like, we want equality, be fair to us. Forget that. Obviously, or maybe they won't. Maybe one day, hopefully, they will be fair to us. But right now, that's not happening. We have to be fair to ourselves.
I agree.
We have to step up in our own communities and create strength in our communities. That way, we don't have to always go and begging the rest of our counterparts to treat us fairly, and our lives matter. I mean, we've been saying that since we got here, since, you know, the slaves were brought over here, that our lives matter. And obviously it doesn't to them, but it has to matter to us, in my opinion.
It should. I agree.
You know what I really appreciate? That this country is divided on this issue. It's 45 million black Americans in this country, and it's 300 million Americans. But what I appreciated, not everyone agrees with what's going on.
I agree.
Right.
There are people that are not black that are standing
Oh yeah, we have a lot of white brothers and
beside
sisters that
people
do.
and saying, I too believe Black Lives Matter. I do not like what I'm seeing. I don't agree with it. And I'll stand with you guys.
Right.
And that is what I'm proud of about this country. That's what represents America.
That's true.
So it's this part over here, this group right here,
But the
that
problem
doesn't
with
want to
that
change.
group, Danny, I agree with you. I appreciate our white and Hispanic and Asian brothers and sisters that stand with Black Lives Matter and all lives matter too. Because I certainly believe that, and I would never treat anybody white differently than I treat somebody black. And that's what white America I don't think understands, that we wouldn't treat you differently. If we just don't think that way. So we always see ourselves, even if they're white, as that could be happening to us. So how would we want to be treated? We try to treat people biblically, because black people are really conservative biblically. We're conservative in the way we treat our fellow man. It's dangerous to say conservative because it's like another party owns that word, but we're really conservative. That's why saying you're gay or something is kind of scary in our community, because we're actually in our basic principles, we're conservative. We don't take a wild approach. But you know, we've just got to figure out a way to not be criticized, because I'm criticized for doing a show where I even talk about it or open up the debate about it and try to stimulate lives about it. But I am thankful to my white brothers and sisters who do stand with us. And I agree with you, Danny. I'm proud of them for standing. And we've always had whites that stood with us. We wouldn't have had Civil Rights Act of 1964 if our white brothers
President Obama wouldn't be in office, because there's not enough black people could have voted him in.
That's my
if
point.
it wasn't other denominations and other ethnic groups saying that we want to see this country fundamental change. And when
But
I went
the
to
difference is, though, what I want to make, we have great white people that might even be the silent minority on this that stand with us, but the ones who have the talking mouths and heads and pieces seem to be the ones destroying what we've worked on over the last 50 years. I mean, because they're saying all this negative, racially charged things, so much so that a young white boy would go into a historically black church and shoot up 9 people at Bible study. That was not a normal, natural occurrence.
Horrific.
And it wouldn't have naturally happened. That came from hate rhetoric that he studied and worshiped and thought he was helping create and be a part of a race riot or race war that's going on in this country. Because the GOP is just feeding out bad or negative people bad information. Like we're taking over, and we're not. We never can, we never will. We're not, it's not enough.
We want the country back is a bad message, because where did it go? What do you want it back? And when to me, the language when you say we want to protect the Constitution, and you use presidents that were born in the 1700s and try to make what they did in the 1700s relevant in 2016, when you don't look at where was I at on the message board in 1700s.
But you don't matter. Your life doesn't matter, Danny.
So if you put my culture in the 1700s, how do you give morals to the people that said it was okay to enslave another people?
Right.
And now I want to respect things they wrote, things they created when they believed that it was okay to enslave another human being.
Right.
And
you know, it's arguments on all sides, because the Native Americans, do they want
be
their
mad at
land
everybody.
back? They ought to be mad at everybody for taking their land and occupying it or whatever. So I don't know. It's just. Let's get into something more salacious, though, because we'll always be divided on that. But let's do something more salacious, and that is Bill Cosby. That is salacious right now, because women, people are mad about Bill Cosby. He's a rapist. He's a rapist. I have different views because I was, had fun in the 70s, so I know it was a different time. But what's your view, Generation XY Cookie? What's your view?
This is my view, almost similar to what you're saying. To me, it's going to sound crazy. I can't even believe I'm saying this. It's going to sound crazy coming from me as a woman, and I'm definitely all about women empowerment. But like you said, it was a time in the 70s, and I feel like these women, at the end of the day, I don't know this for sure, but at the end of the day, they could have walked in and Bill said, look, here's your pill, here's your Coke, here's your drinks, here you eat, whatever you need.
Here's the bed.
Here the bed. You know what time it is. It'll be different if he drugged somebody out and snatched them from behind the bushes and whatever. And not justifying anything that Bill did and didn't do. We don't know for sure. This is stuff that happened years and years ago. But I'm just saying, these were women of age. These were women in the public light. I'm pretty sure Bill was popping back then. For y'all to know, he was popping. They walked in. It's like, hey, here you go. It is what it is. So I mean, not saying that if he did rape, that's not okay. I'm not justifying that at all. But to me, to take this man, this legacy, like forget all of that, but the fact that this man and what he represented for our culture during that time and to put him in jail, when you have people out here who have done way worse than that, who are acquitted, who walk away free, who, all these policemen killing people. But you have a man who all these women all of a sudden coming up because they want a piece of the pie. Let's be real. Somebody's getting paid for this. And they're going in on Bill saying, oh, he drugged me. No, sweet. I don't know. I don't know this for sure, but in my opinion, the drugs probably were laid out, or they might even brought the drugs with them, and they knew what time it was. And now someone's like, look, we're trying to take Bill Cosby down for whatever reason. Here's some change. We need you to come up and come forth and speak. That's my opinion on it.
And let me tell you, I have multiple opinions, but one that I'll say that's prevalent is Bill lost his protection. There was somebody who's been protecting him for a long time. We all knew in the 60s and 70s about the casting couch. Every young starlet had to screw to get a part, male and female. They had to screw to get parts. That's always been a part of Hollywood. Let's understand, he was on I Spy, a black star, integrating TV, male, a black and white partners as police officers in the 60s. He was a darling to NBC. He became a multimillionaire starting in the 60s. Every woman in the 70s that went to his room and knew he was married knew what time it was. I have never gone to a married man's room, probably, but if I did, I'm just gonna say when I went to men's rooms in the 70s, because I did go to men's dorm rooms in college or different things. I mean, you know what could happen. I mean, you got to know when you're going in. If he goes this far, I'm gonna run out, or I'm gonna do this, or I just want to talk. But there was too much socializing to have to go into a room. In the 70s, I never went to no married man's room, but without a group of people. But if I did, and he was a star, and I wanted to be in the movies or in that business, and I went to a married man's room, I'm just telling you now, I would know what time it is. Yeah. And like you said, at that time, people had the coke out, they had the weed out, they had the Quaaludes out. Quaaludes were real normal back then. But the theory of rape, of sexual assault, is that you can't consent if you're drugged. So I would think that the government's theory is going to be that he drugged them first to get the drugs, because of course they're going to look at it from that point of view and never look at it, why is a woman going to a black married man's room with his wife not there? What do y'all have to talk about that y'all couldn't talk about at the bar or at the office where you do actual interviews and auditions? What was it that y'all needed to talk about? And I think it would be an interesting defense to know how many women he actually helped to get parts.
That would be good.
How many people back then did he introduce to the president of NBC?
Right.
Or the vice president or the casting agents at NBC? How many people?
These women
were
in Hollywood.
They were in Hollywood. That was a part of the game then, and it's from what I understand from a few Hollywood people, it's still a part of the game now. Look at all the old actresses. Who are they married to? Directors, producers, agents. Who are they married to? Some of the most beautiful women in the world are married to some of the shortest, fat, ugly men, and you think that they weren't, and they were in their movies, and you don't think that they went to the casting couch? Talk to me. So what I'm saying is that I think Bill did what everybody else did back then, but I think that because he was a black man, he could have gone to prison for doing it. I think that somebody was his protection. And I think that person, he's almost 80, I think whoever his protection was older than him, and they're gone. They're gone. But everybody knew what he was doing because everybody in his circle was doing it. There was orgies back then.
Right.
Everybody was doing everything. Girls were screwing everybody, getting pregnant, having abortions. That's what all this anti-abortion is from the activity of the 70s.
Right.
Okay, so.
It went down in the 70s, apparently.
It went down in the 70s, baby. You should have been there. It was before AIDS. Wait a minute, it was before AIDS. You should have been there. Okay.
So here's my take on Bill Cosby. I'll say Charlie Sheen.
Right? Oh, come on.
So Charlie Sheen comes out, and he admitted it because they were trying to blackmail him. If you don't know the backstory on Charlie Sheen, he got in a lot of trouble with drugs and just a lot of illicit behavior. So someone was trying to black Charlie Sheen and told him to keep from being blackmailed. He came out and made a statement saying, I'm HIV positive, and I've been having consensual sex with people and not letting them know that I have been doing it. So immediately it went viral. Everybody was talking about it. But why wasn't that considered attempted murder? If I thought it was a law protecting me, that if you were affected, that you have to tell me by law that you have this disease. And if you do that with more than one person, that's a crime. But that's not the point I'm trying to make. Even though when this happened, to this day, they didn't take his programming out of syndication. They didn't give him the demoralizing press that they gave Bill Cosby. Now, what's bad about Bill Cosby's situation is all his cast members are suffering because all of his shows are out of syndication. So they stopped getting checks. So they try to they hurt him. They hurt his cast member financially. With Felicia Rashad, all those people that was on that show, they stopped getting checks behind that. Now, I'm not really Bill's behavior to have sex with women using a pill. I made this to another guy. I say he did better just like buying like blow-up dolls because these people are unconscious. Who has sex with unconscious people?
Let me tell you what one theory is supposed to be. I've polled so many men, and some from the 70s that were acting a fool in the 70s. And the only theory that I heard that made sense is that, okay, say for example, Cookie, you want to go and come to the casting couch, and it's me, okay? And you got to do what you got to do. I might be way freaky. You got to do it. Get your freak on with me so I can make this introduction tomorrow. And if I don't do it, you're gonna be calling saying, "Well, you promised me this. I'm gonna call your wife. I'm gonna do this." But if you're drugged,
you won't remember?
You might not remember, because remember, you can be high and have sex, and the next day not quite remember because you were so high. You can do a whole bunch of stuff high. You can go rob a bank high. Half the people who kill people are high, but they're less they forget the details. You know what I mean? They're in it for the moment. You know, they're in it, but when they go to sleep, it's a hard sleep, and they black out.
So their body may be responding where their brain is not.
Or even in that moment, their brain is.
In that moment, because see, people took Quaaludes in the 70s to get high. It was all over San Antonio. When people came back from Vietnam, they took Quaaludes, Christmas tree, weeds, angel dust. That was popular. When my mother died, I had Quaaludes. People gave me Quaaludes. I'm just saying it was a downer, but you can still function. You're just down. You're just down. And you get real crazy with alcohol, probably cocaine, and other things that they were doing. You get to a level of high that you might get sexed out, but the next day, you might not really kind of remember what happened. And your body might feel as a woman that you had sex, but you might not remember the details of it. And so the likelihood of you calling threatening somebody, that was his way of detaching from them. You know, you got so high, we had a good time. Just think, they come in the screw, okay? So if you take a pill and you drinking something, you screw your butt off, then you go to sleep and the stuff starts wearing, you get high and high and high, and you go to sleep. The next day, do you really remember all the details?
Oh, I can almost visualize that.
You used to get high, dude. Come on. Crack, high, sex, crack, sex, high, crack, sex, high. Okay.
But Bill's behavior over and over again, his method.
That's what I'm saying. That methodology might have to do something with forgetfulness.
It's like he got addicted.
Because see, the next day, if you got that high, are you gonna really tell anybody? Are you gonna and are you really lucid enough to make threats to him when you got that wild and loose?
When you know you took that, whatever it was, because that was the thing. It wasn't like, well, we don't know, but I don't think he.
Some of them are saying he slipped it in their drink, because that's what Beverly Johnson, the only black one, said. She felt kind of woozy, so she ran out of the room. But like you said, he didn't chase her. Right. He didn't make her have sex. He didn't rape her. You know, she said she took it, but she felt funny because something was in her drink. But the issue is, still, I mean, women today, if they feel funny that you did something to them, they're going to go tell the police the next day. I've had rape cases like that, or attempted rape. The police don't really take them. But I think it was the detachment issue he was able to manipulate, because he is married, and go back to his life. after they were so blacked out that they weren't really thinking about it. Who knows? He might have got him high and made him say some crazy stuff and tape recorded him.
But can we
or
be
talk
clear
to
on-
him. It might have been a whole bunch of stuff that happened, and 30 years later they don't have the evidence anymore. He might have been taping them girls when they were like that, so they didn't want to be counter blackmailed. I mean, you just don't know the story.
Let's give some facts to this case while we're talking about it.
Do we know facts? Do we really
Right.
know facts?
Bill Clinton, not Bill Clinton. Sorry, Bill, to throw you up on the bus like that, man.
Freudian
You know what I'm
slip.
saying? It's kind of like y'all kind of like the same type of dudes.
Brothers
But,
from another
yeah,
mother.
y'all
Brother
kinda
from another
like
mother.
Both of y'all kind of like
Brother-
freaky dudes.
Brother from
But
another
Bill
mother.
Cosby has made statements to collaborate this behavior, and I was very uncomfortable that he actually made
Trust me,
statements.
he's a smart man because he was a smart man, and there's more to it than we know. It's more to it than that.
Always.
But he has made statements on record that he did give her drugs. I did touch her, but I didn't actually penetrate her. He made a statement like, I'm like, Bill, he actually gave that statement to the last lady that
The issue is just going to be consent. I'm a trial lawyer. The issue is consent. Did she consent? Did you, like Cookie said, did he drag you and force you into his room? He was married. You didn't know it. Trickery.
he
Is
paid
that-
her though. I think that's the one that he paid. Now they're
She
going
got
to
paid.
Oh yeah, I think she got paid.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, they're going to try to use some of those people, but in the law, anything over 10 years is usually too remote to testify about. And the thing that's so cold about what's happening with Bill and the public opinion and him losing his protection is it's just her word against his, because there's no physical evidence at all. I mean, if she went to the police, did they preserve any physical evidence? Did she take any pictures? I mean, there's something called a speedy trial. I mean, why is the prosecutor doing it now? If, let's say it was reported when it happened 15 or 18 or 20 years ago, why didn't they pursue it then? Why are you doing it now with public opinion? I mean, he has a lot of appealable issues in this. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, we can get things dismissed because he might have witnesses who are dead that could have testified for him.
But why Charlie Sheen is not in the news?
Because Charlie Sheen's
Why we not talking about him though? He openly admitted that I got HIV and I'm spreading it. You know what I'm saying?
And
Like
there
violence.
used to
And
be
that
a
was
law on the books in Texas. I've only seen it one time where somebody gave somebody AIDS, and you can't prosecute somebody for attempted murder. I've seen it happen one time years ago. I don't know if it's a current law, but we have visited that law in Texas. You can use murder even if it doesn't say AIDS. I mean, just if someone has a terminal disease that they can give to someone else, you can just make the murder law just general. If you intentionally inflicted a danger, created a danger that could kill somebody, because AIDS definitely kills people. Mm-hmm. And you can't stay alive with it if you don't have the medicine to pay for it, or the money to pay for it, or insurance.
I'm not saying that they're comparable, but they're equally
Egregious.
horrific, egregious acts on another human being, but they should be equally discussed. And not one just stays in the news and let's go after him. Charlie
And the other
Sheen has
one-
been
the other-
charged with nothing. He's not
Charlie-
been charged with anything.
Charlie Sheen gets to brag and say, "I'm winning.
Right.
Yeah, I got AIDS, but I'm HIV, but I'm winning and I'm infecting people and I'm partying with." Remember when he first went AWOL on that TV show?
He got
had
paid.
women everywhere, but he had women all around him too. I mean, that was before we knew he was HIV positive. When he was saying "I'm winning," he had all kind of beautiful women. He had kind of gone AWOL from his family, his his wife.
Right.
So I mean, he was like had women all around him.
And how many of them right now are asking themselves that?
Coming up saying we want to accuse him, charge him, or what have you.
Well,
And
they gonna try.
it's kind of like Tiger Woods. When he got in trouble, since the media turned on him, then his wife knew, ooh, this is a good time strategically to sue him for divorce, because I can take more than half of his, I get an unequal share of his money.
He can't defend
Fight
it.
it. He can't fight it. And so it's the same thing with Bill Cosby. It's like he lost his protection. The media is uncovering all these people. All of these Hollywood, if you could see all the guys that were his contemporaries and know how many people they screwed, you'd probably have your mouth wide open too. But they, for some reason, still have their protection. I wonder why. Does it have anything to do with the way they look? I mean, because you can't
pay
tell
for your
me.
protection. Follow
Yeah.
the money.
Yeah.
It was something. Either
He has money, but
going on.
he had to have some other people protecting him. People who were doing the same thing, that were powerful and probably not black, that were friends with law enforcement, and just said, because like I said, it was that time. I mean, if you go back to old tapes, and you'll hear that was that time. People had free love.
It was condoned almost.
And I still believe that there's a casting couch. You'll never be able to tell me that there's no casting couch now. I believe there is.
But not on Truth and Justice.
No.
Oh, not on Truth and Justice. We don't have a casting couch, but we don't get paid. This is our community service. So
That's my disclaimer.
that's
my
your disclaimer. Oh yeah. That's your disclaimer. Yep. Thank you for making that disclaimer.
Now, this was one thing I read about. Bill Cosby had a lot of stuff going on. He had new series coming out.
He was trying to buy
He
NBC.
was trying to buy NBC. And this is what I think it was. He was too close for comfort, and that protection went away because he was doing too much. Bill was trying to
78, he had
take over.
protection.
Theory. That's one
Bill was
theory
trying to
out
take
there.
over.
That's one
And
theory
remember
out
in the
there.
60s, whoever was helping him, the nice white guys that were giving him a chance, they were older than him. Okay? So his
They
protection.
died off?
His protection's gone. He's 78 and can't see. He got a degenerative eye
Oh, he
disease.
can't see. That's something else. Artists,
He's
you didn't
going
know.
blind. Yeah, he's going
I
blind.
saw some footage of
Yeah, he's
him
going
getting out
blind.
and
Yeah, he's going
he
blind.
can't see.
Yeah. It happens in my family. My aunt can't see. She's blind in one eye and can't see out of the other. Legally blind in one and blind in the other. So a lot of elderly people, you'll look at them, they'll have that blue eye where that film has gone over it.
glaucoma?
It's glaucoma, and some people don't treat well with that. And our family, if you get cataracts, we have another more horrible eye disease that if we have the surgery, we go blind immediately.
Wow.
So it's a risk of the degeneration of it degenerative disease of going blind with the cataract. Do I keep that on there or do I, because there's like 1 in a million it might work. And so everybody in my family gets it and they all get the blue eye and then they don't do the other eye. So then it's called Fuchs disease, and it stands for something that my aunt knows and I don't remember. It's a real long name like this name, and so it doesn't work for us. So people do have degenerative eye diseases, and they say he has one of them.
Yeah.
And he says 78. So really, what will society benefit by putting him in prison for an act that probably started off consensual, or that she went to his room? In the 70s, if somebody went too far with women, they just say, I shouldn't have been up in his room. Things happened that you didn't want, but, nobody filed charges, especially 50 years later. Look at him.
And another thing that really bothers me about Mr. Cosby is how critical he was of other people. And I don't know if
he did to those black kids. Remember, he was telling them to get their lives together. Well, white America, the GOP liked that. I liked it. Because I thought we needed a black male to say, get your stuff together,
Pull
kids.
your pants
Pull your
up.
pants up.
Right.
Stop robbing and stealing. Whatever he was saying, I liked it. I liked the rhetoric. I don't think that helped him. I think it has more to do with, it's always follow the money, like you said.
Right,
always follow the money. Remember that cookie generation X, Y, it's always follow the money. So it's having to do with that money.
Right.
It's something having to do with that money.
That's my theory. I think it was key with him trying to buy NBC, him having his series on, and him trying to really put forth his agenda. I think somebody was like, Bill, you're not coming through with that, because we have a good thing going with this reality TV, with, all the media we have pushing our generation, with the retail buying and all of that. No, Bill, you're not going to come in and put some sense in these kids because we're making too much money off of them. That's my thing, I think.
Ooh, what a Generation X, Y thing to say. I like it. I like it. We need to know what you guys are thinking. Apparently, he didn't partner with the right person.
Right.
A lot of times. Go ahead.
So let's give some kudos to President Obama using his executive pen and making some gun legislation. And the pushback was, they saying don't do anything. And when he gave his address to the nation, which is going to be played over and over again 50 years from now, basically what he was saying is, I know that this may not fix the problem, put more restrictions on people buying guns, but if it stopped one tragedy like happened in Newtown that we stopped talking about, and how did we stop talking about this kid going in there killing first graders, and that just not, and ISIS get more of a platform on television. Now, I'm more fearful of a kid going into a school, killing school kids,
than
I am of ISIS doing something on the streets in a crowded mall or something. Mm-hmm. Because,
or a church even. We go to church, an open facility.
Or at a school campus,
right.
Where Americans are taking out Americans versus someone that doesn't live in this country want to come over here and try to take down 300 million people with a bomb, made out of a pressure cooker. All those things are horrific, but I'm more fear of people that look like Americans than I am to someone that looks un-American. So
I
push
agree.
up President Obama. Guns, I spent 6 years in the military, spent a lot of times around guns. When I got out of the military, it was the last thing I wanted to be around was a weapon.
Really?
And this is the reason why. A lot of the times you see on the news where kids get a hold of guns. And a gun is only good if you have it on you when you're in a situation where you need it. Most of the time, when you need a gun, if you have one, it's not in your hand on the trigger.
And that's why I won't carry one, because whoever is after me, they'll have to jump on me, because I don't want to walk around with a gun on me. But that's what this open carry is about. And just think of how much more misunderstandings we're about to have. You know,
Wrongful killings.
wrongful killings. I mean, people are going to jump to conclusions, not use educated reasoning, not try to talk it out, not try to, rally down the controversy, ratchet it down. They're going to be ratcheting it up.
I got a gun.
I got a gun.
But
I got
to
a
me,
gun.
it's a
Looks like you got a
catch-22.
gun. And most people have cell phones, and we already know by the guy in New York, Adebayo, whatever his name was, that they thought he's in his room trying to get in his house, but all he's reaching for is his cell phone or his key, and you think that's a gun. I mean, you reach, and I get to shoot you, and it's okay.
What was that law that Trayvon, the guy justified killing Trayvon? What is the law in Florida that allows you?
Whatever it was, Trayvon should have been the one using it. I can use force because I'm scared of you. You can use deadly force basically if you're scared of somebody. And to me, Trayvon Martin should have been scared of that man stalking him.
Stand your ground.
Stand your ground.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, but who really had the right to stand your ground? The media decided it was the white male, but to me, if somebody's walking behind, a car is slowly going behind me and they get out the car, I need to stand my ground. Okay? So they're talking about Trayvon beat him up. Well, he should have beat him up. He had a right to stand his ground. Somebody is stalking him for no reason. But the media decided that the white man in the car who got out the car, who didn't see the black boy do anything wrong, decided the one that had the right to stand his ground. No, Trayvon had the right to stand his ground. He was the one that got stalked and hunted down like a dog, and somebody jumped out of the car. He's supposed to stand his ground. He was the one being assaulted and scared.
To me, it's a catch-22. The fact that you have all these people, militia, law enforcement, all these people with guns, it makes me feel like I have to have one.
I know.
What was great is we're having a conversation about it. And as long as we're talking about it, and we have viewers out there listening to it, and I want you guys to know that this program, this program will show on YouTube in a few days. Subscribe to Truth and Justice on YouTube. So if you miss a show, you won't miss a show.
Gotcha. Generation XY, you have a closing statement?
Ooh, I do. Let's just start working on building our community, looking out for each other, and recognizing that our lives matter to each other.
What a beautiful statement, Cookie. I like that. And thank you for sharing your story. Hopefully you'll watch us. Keep watching us. Remember, I want to tell your crime stories. But once a month, every now and then, we have to talk about hot topics because it's just too hot not to talk about them. So we enjoyed you watching us tonight. Hopefully you can call me, vivianrking.com. You can look me up on the internet. You can Google me and call my office, leave a message. I'll call you back. And if you want to tell your story, your friend's story, your loved one's story, you have questions about the criminal justice system you want to share in a format so you can understand that you, the taxpayer, are paying for our city government, and we want to make sure our government works for all of us, not just some of us. Thank you for watching Truth and Justice with Vivian King. Good night. Thank you for tuning in again tonight. We have something really good, a hot topic in the news this week. He's been charged with crime. This is a show where I try to educate